and a plane ticket that we can go on these exact dates.
Okay.
And there you go.
All
And I
right.
was like, okay, we can fly direct.
There you go.
So I haven't been there since I was 19. I've been to lots of other places in Florida, but not Fort Lauderdale. So we'll
You know,
see.
I
I don't know what to
honestly, I don't
expect.
think I've been to Fort Lauderdale since, oh wow, I think probably since I was like 14 or so.
I'm saying it's been a minute, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what there is to do there, but it doesn't really matter because
It's nice.
In
it's going to be
Pensacola.
sunny. We're right where our hotel is. They have a private access to the beach.
Right on the water.
Oh, that's,
Right on the
oh,
water.
you should have a good time.
There's a pool bar. I don't care.
Okay.
Like, that's a lot.
Hey, there you go. Well,
We
yes,
can entertain ourselves anywhere that's sunny and not a snowy mix in April.
Can we not? Can we not? I'm
And I
still
volunteered
recovering.
at the school, and
It's
we had to
warmer
be
in
outside
Ohio.
of there.
Columbus.
In Ohio.
Wait, Columbus is nice. Columbus is really
The
nice.
city is really grown. It's bigger than Detroit.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's got
Wow.
about 700 some thousand people.
You're
Oh
kidding.
my gosh.
And you ever look at the city limits of, there's a highway that runs, it's called 315, it's a state route. And literally on the side of the highway, you see a sign that says leaving Columbus, and then 100 feet later, entering Columbus, leaving Columbus, entering. Because
Wow.
the city's boundary is so
There's
jagged from expansion
So
and
this is
annexation.
expanding.
Oh,
Wow.
It's exactly what you don't want to do. It's
No, I was like, okay, that's urban sprawl.
Okay, so I know we're waiting for Phil. Who else? We just have Phil. Nobody got appointed for planning commission yet, I take it?
So is Scott really gone?
Scott's gone.
It would be so helpful to have Scott today.
Yes, yeah, you missed Scott's last meeting.
I did.
But thankfully for us, he's a trustee now. He's
He
on
is.
the township board,
Oh,
so.
believe me, because
Did
the
you-
next door app
Yeah.
is blowing up with that drain,
Oh,
that
I know.
drainage pond. And so I saw Scott responding
Yeah.
to something, but I was just like, do you have the next door app?
No.
So it's a neighborhood app, and I honestly have it just to keep up with what's going on in the neighborhood. And usually,
Well, we
it's-
get it. There's some funny ones. You and I have caught the same funny ones
It's
about like the
you
medical
know,
marijuana.
the neighbors going
places.
after,
Oh,
you know, somebody
It's funny.
but when they get on local government stuff, whew, yeah.
Did you get any of that stuff today?
I'm already recording, so whenever Treasurer Shane gets here, you
Okay.
guys are good to go. You can start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Keith, are we expecting Phil?
I talked to him on it.
Okay, and no planning commission appointee, correct?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay,
I haven't looked
that's
at
all right. I just want to make sure. So we do need him. So I don't want to start without him.
Yep.
because you can't do unfinished business
Not
without,
not if you're.
yeah, if I'm recusing myself.
Yeah, we need at least 3 to have a quorum.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Oh, righty then.
Jim, it's Koenig, right?
You can say it however you want.
No, you tell me how it's
It
used.
is, it's Kane.
Koenig, okay. I wanted to make sure I said it right.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
I've
Okay.
gotten everything you can think of. I'm trying to pronounce my last name.
Oh,
We wanna make sure
believe
we
me,
know
I
where-
understand. Mansoor gets murdered in most cases, so.
As does Shane.
Oh, of course.
Not pretty easy.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Charter Township of Meridian Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. It is 6:31 p.m., and I'm going to go ahead and get started. First up would be the approval of tonight's agenda. If everybody's had a chance to take a look at that. Okay.
Can we get a copy of the agenda, please?
It's right there on the table.
Right on the table, right behind you, sir. Right there where you walked in. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, if I have a motion from somebody.
So moved. A move to approve the agenda as presented.
Great, thank you.
Get it
Member
up there,
Shane?
too. Get it up there.
second.
Okay, and seconded by Member Field Foster. We'll go to a vote, starting with Member Koenig,
Yes.
Member Field Foster,
Yes.
Member DeShane,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The agenda for tonight's meeting is approved. Next item would be the minutes from Wednesday, April 16th, 2022. Hopefully everybody got a chance to spell check those. Just kidding, kind of. But I did not see any corrections, so I will move to approve the minutes from Wednesday, March 16, 2022.
Support.
Supported by Member DeShane, and this would be a vote to approve the minutes from March 16th. Member Koenig?
Yes.
Member Field Foster?
Yes.
Member DeShane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so those minutes are approved. Communications, Keith, will discuss as cases arise. Yes. We have been notified of communications and they are in our packets. So we will move directly into item number 5, which is unfinished business. And at this point, I would like to call Member Field Foster. Has something?
Chairman, sir, did we do a roll call yet? Did we do the?
I'm sorry, we did not. Thank you. That's a good point. We will start with a roll call just for sake of minutes and sake of posterity. Member Koenig, you present, and Member Field Foster,
Present.
Member DeShane,
Present.
and Chair Mansour is present. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm going to make myself a little note to start that before our agenda approval. Okay, we will go back to Member Field Foster.
I would like to request to be recused from the unfinished business of ZBA case number 22-3-16-1 with the Sparrow Hospital Association variance. I sit on the Sparrow Hospital Foundation Board and believe this would create a conflict of interest if I took action on this issue.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate that. Member Field Foster was not here the first time this was brought to the boards before we tabled that discussion. So moved to recuse Member Field Foster from this particular case.
Support.
Okay, supported by Member DeShane. We will go ahead and vote, and you can vote on this one as well. So this is a vote to recuse Member Field Foster from ZBA case number 22-03-16-1, Sparrow Hospital Association. Member Koenig.
Yes.
Member Field Foster.
Yes.
Member DeShane.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so you are so recused. If you'd like to join the audience for this case, thank you. That'll be a nice, different perspective for you there. Okay, and on that note, I'll turn it over to Mr. Chapman.
Good evening. So this case was in front of us at the March 16th meeting. It was tabled by the applicant. And this request was for installing wall signs on a medical office building with standalone emergency room. So the previous request at the meeting was to install 7 additional wall signs that totaled 248 square feet. They have since provided us with revised plans that take into account some of the things that the Zoning Board of Appeals brought up at that meeting. So the plans that they submitted show, I'll bring them up here. On the south elevation, the Sparrow logo was removed. And this was a 40 square foot sign. And, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. And then on the 2 emergency signs that were located on the south and west canopy elevations were also removed, resulting in a deduction of 28 square feet. So now the request is to install 5 wall signs, 1 on the west elevation, 3 on the east elevation, and 1 on the south elevation. So the west elevation shows a 70 square foot emergency sign. The east shows a 14 square foot emergency sign, 12 square foot ambulance sign, and 22 square foot Sparrow sign. The south elevation shows a 62 square foot emergency sign. The zoning ordinance only allows for 1 wall sign, not to exceed 20 square feet on the entire building. So the variance request is for 4 additional wall signs with a total of 180 square feet. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to come up and speak on the case and just state your name and address for the public record, please? Thank you.
Hi, Hi, I'm Stacy Backyard. I'm a resident of DeWitt, not of Meridian Township, but just wanted to make you guys aware we can answer any questions. I know we had a lot of discussion last month about this, and I think we captured the feedback and the intent of, there was some verbiage about minimal alterations or minimal additions, and hopefully we captured that in this new package. So any questions you guys have, we're here to answer.
And it was Stacy, what's your last name?
Stacy Backyard.
Baki Garden? Okay. Just want to make sure I say it correctly. Okay. If you want to stay close.
Stay out?
Yep. Because we will go right into our board time, unless there's anybody else that's present that would like to speak on this case tonight. Okay. Yeah, if you could stay there, that would be fantastic. And on that note, we will go ahead and get into board time. Anybody have anything to add? We have a very slim quorum here tonight, so. Yes, Treasurer DeShane, go ahead.
We did ask Sparrow to significantly reduce the number of signs and the size of the signs, and it appears to me they've met that request. I think their sign request in light of the facility being an NER is reasonable. I do wish the monument Sparrow sign were a little smaller. It seems to shout Sparrow more than it shouts emergency, but apart from that, one issue with the monument sign, I believe Sparrow's done with this board, and I believe the Planning Commission had asked them to do, and I'm prepared to support it.
Okay. Member Koenig, anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I completely agree with Board Member Shane on this, and I also want to say thank you to Sparrow for coming back, to listening to the board, and going back and making some changes and coming back to try to lessen the impacts from this. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm in agreement with my fellow board members, and I just would like to go through the criteria just to, cross our T's and dot our I's on this one. But I do believe that you've done a significant job of minimizing and resulting in something that I feel is suitable for the township. So let's go ahead and go through the criteria. Criteria number 1, unique circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land or structure that are not applicable to other land or structures in the same zoning district. And I believe that we talked about that at length during the first meeting about the uniqueness of the facility and the location and the usage. That said, I can meet that criteria. Special circumstances are not self-created. I do believe I can meet that criteria just based on the fact that it's not every day that we get this usage of this type of facility, and I do believe we can meet that. Criteria number 3, strict interpretation and enforcement of the literal terms and provisions of this chapter would result in practical difficulties. I do believe that an emergency room needs to have signage. So I think the ordinance in this case is not allowing the usage for what we need it to be. Criteria number 4, that the alleged practical difficulties will result from a failure to grant the variance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for the permitted purpose. Again, I think we covered that at length in the first meeting, this being an emergency room and 50-50 split with a urgent care facility. It does need to have some distinction and separation, and where that signage is just very limited by the ordinance. And criteria number 5, granting the variance is the minimum action that will make possible the use of land or structure in a manner in which is not contrary to the public interest, which would carry out the spirit of the zoning ordinance, secure public safety, and provide substantial justice. I do believe we can meet that. I think that Sparrow has done an excellent job of coming back with a minimum action and really taking into consideration the feedback. And I hear Member DeShane about the branding, though we have to take this as content neutral. So I do think that monument sign, they get to put on it what they want. That one is in the ordinance, so that's not up to us. Criteria number 6, granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land or the essential character in the vicinity of the property. Again, this was discussed at our first meeting. I do believe that this is only going to enhance the township. Criteria number 7, the conditions pertaining to the land or structure are not so general or recurrent in nature as to make the formulation of a general regulation for such conditions practicable. We don't get these types of facilities often, so thankfully for that, this is a very unique circumstance. And criteria number 8, granting the variance will be generally consistent with public interest and the purposes and intent of this chapter, and so met. With that said, I think I can meet all 8 criteria. Do I have a motion?
You will as soon as I bring it up.
Oh, no problem. I was writing it down, so. Here we go. I can move. I've got it in front of me. I will make a motion to approve ZBA case number 22-03-16-1, EW Sparrow Hospital Association, 1215 East Michigan Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48909.
Support.
Supported by Member DeShane. And we will go ahead and go to a vote. We need a quorum in order to pass that. So, Member Koenig.
Yes.
And Member DeShane.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So your variance approval has been passed.
Appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the building. Okay, and we will welcome Member Field Foster back. All right. Welcome back from all the way over in the audience.
I know, right?
All right, we are going to move on to new business, which brings us to ZBA case number 22-04-20-1, Jerry Fedwa Homes, 6059 East Lake Drive, since we have two East Lake Drive properties tonight. Jerry Fedwa Homes, and with that, Keith, what do you have for us?
Okay, so the applicant is requesting a variance from the front yard setback. So in this case, the Lake Lansing Overlay District requires a 20-foot front yard setback from the street line, except on lots fronting on Lake Drive, East Lake Drive, West Lake Drive, or Marsh Road. And in those cases, they are required to be in accordance with the setback requirements of Section 86.367. And that map shows that the front yard setback is 85 feet from the center line of the right-of-way on Lake Drive. So the applicant intends to construct a 2,589 square foot single-family home at 6059 East Lake Drive. Currently on site, there is a 1,056 square foot single-family home that is proposed to be demolished. And according to Township records, the one-story home was constructed in 1956. So the overlay district requires a minimum front yard setback of 20 feet. And like I said, the East Lake Drive setback is 85 feet from the center line of the street. So at its closest point, the proposed single-family home will be approximately 43.5 feet from the center line of East Lake Drive right away. So the variance of 41.5 feet is requested.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to come up to the podium, please? And you'll just state your name and address for the public record, please.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jerry Fedwa. I reside at 5570 Okemos Road, East Lansing. We are home builders in the greater Lansing area, and we are proposing to build this new single-family residence for the Crowells and Rod and Loretta Crowell. Loretta is here this evening, and they're friends of ours. And so what we're doing is we're tearing down the existing structure, and we're proposing to build this new structure. And I had submitted to you folks, this is an easy way to do it. I don't know if this will work.
Yeah, Mr. Chapman will hook you up there. There we go.
Okay, good, thank you.
Here we go.
Yeah, something like that. Great, great. The house is outlined. It's not a very large lot. It's a small lot. And you will notice that we have indicated the 34 feet is from the blacktop, edge of the blacktop. The neighbor to the north is 26 feet from the edge of the blacktop. 1 foot off the property line, about 11 feet off the property line, and The neighbor to the south, as you can see, has a larger lot and it sits back a little bit further. Therefore, we're requesting this variance for this, to build this house on this lot. And if you have questions, I don't know what else to add.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fedewa. If you want to stick around, or if anybody else would like to come and speak on this case tonight, I know we did receive communication in our packet in support of this variance application from a neighbor. If anybody else would like to speak on this case, they're welcome to join Mr. Fedewa at the podium. And if not, then we're going to go ahead and get into our board time.
Stay?
Yes. I'm certain we'll have questions for you.
Okay.
All right. In that note, we will close public comment for that at the moment and get into our board time. Anybody have anything anywhere they'd like to start? Well, I will start by asking Keith a question, Mr. Chapman. Being that we're back to Lake Lansing, what are we looking at? I can see the neighboring house at 26 feet from the blacktop, but so that to the center line is closer to the road than this proposed new build, closer to the center line. Are we also looking at probably everything in this area has a variance of some way, shape, or form, if it's a new construction?
If it's a new construction, yes.
Okay.
But if it's previous,
Right.
yeah, then probably not.
Okay. Okay.
Can I interject?
Yes, Mr. Vito, go ahead.
On Lake Drive, I don't believe there is one single residence on the lakeside that actually does comply with the 85-foot setback.
Right. Yeah, and I know that is something that the township is looking at right now. Planning's been working on it. The Board of Trustees is going to look into it, and I know that this is something that's in the works. But we have taken these cases on quite a bit lately, so this is definitely a challenge put in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for us. I think I would question if anybody has any comments. I can start working on the criteria. Okay, Member Field Foster.
So, I guess I'll just ask my questions in reference to the answers. Did you prepare the answers to the variance questions? Were those your responses?
In our office.
packet?
Our office did
Your
that.
office did that. Okay, so would you be able to respond then to some of my questions with those answers?
Oh, well, give me a try.
All right, okay. So for number 4, where we get into the alleged practical difficulties that will result from a failure to grant the variance, the answer is by not granting the variance, the homeowner would be preventing from building their new home. And so I guess my question is, couldn't the home be designed differently to fit within that space rather than asking for the variance?
Okay, I brought that along as well. If you look at this next, I don't know if you can see, can you focus?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go, thank
Yep.
you. And a pointer, if we got a pen.
Pencil.
Pencil works.
That'll work.
Okay, so what happens is this line that is right here is the existing house. Right here is the existing house.
Right.
The existing house is not occupiable. There's water in the crawl space. It's full of water. 2 feet above or below the floor. Okay, so to rebuild it, was that a question, to rebuild that house?
No, it's design it differently. I mean,
Oh, well,
Just stay within the setbacks.
Just stay within
I
the
think she's
setbacks.
asking.
Okay, to stay within the setback, then then let me see, that's the existing house. And the new house, the buildability is this dotted line. This here line goes back 85 feet. Okay, so this here crossed here to back here, and I think I can squeeze a 12-foot wide trailer on the property, and a lengthwise is about the extent of what could be put on there without a variance.
So the setback from the lake is that top longer dashed line, is that correct, where it says building setback line? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that's the building.
Okay, that's the setback from the lake?
Yes, that's the setback from the lake.
Okay.
So between this line here to this line here is the buildable area.
Right.
Okay, so that would give you maybe 20 feet of rear yard. Where we're talking about the two neighbors to the sides are able to enjoy a backyard, and this would pretty much take the backyard out of the plan. So I mean, it would to comply without any variance. You have a very narrow footprint. And so, I mean, it wouldn't be practical to build a house like that. So almost in every circumstance, a variance would be requested on this lot.
Can you make that a little smaller so I can see where the the lake is?
Yeah.
In the back, sorry.
Let me bring it right
Okay.
there. Right there is the lake.
And what are those dotted lines that go, it's next to the shed and it goes back into the,
Right here, the shed?
No, right there. Yeah, the lighter dashes.
Well, this here,
No,
this
that
line. Yep.
Yep, right there, yeah.
that is the building setback line from the lake. That is the building setback line from the lake.
Talking about the smaller.
The smaller dashes.
Yeah, the smaller
Might
dashes.
be a deck or a patio or something, some sort.
It looks like it must be,
The
yeah,
smallest
something.
dash line there is what the board member was asking about.
This one here?
Nope,
No.
go,
Okay,
keep going
smaller
up.
going.
dash line. There's this dash line.
Not that one.
Right above it.
The one above it, yeah.
Right above it, closer to
this
the
one.
lake.
Yeah.
This one over here.
Yes,
Yes,
correct.
yes, that one.
That one continues to be, I think it was the old deck.
Okay,
It's the old deck.
that makes sense.
Okay, so that doesn't exist anymore?
Well, it's actually still there.
It's still, okay, it's still there.
But if you can see this angle here, 33 feet, this is 33 feet to the water from the new house proposed. So you're not gaining a lot of backyard, or that's kind of like a reasonable sized backyard.
So Jerry, the applicant could have less of a variance request if they pushed it forward. Is there room to move it closer to the lake based on the lines we're seeing here?
Well, because of the footprint, by pushing it back, then we would need a variance, a side yard variance.
Okay, so that's really the only spot.
It doesn't, it tucks back about as far as it can tuck back.
I understand. But being pulled back like that, it doesn't impede, it impedes less on the view of the lake from the neighbors to the south and to the north as well, correct?
It does not impede on the neighbor's view whatsoever.
Right.
It is actually in front, further from the lake for the footprint of the house, of the new house.
Yeah, I think we can tell based on the plot lines on either side where those,
Yeah,
those
it
buildings
goes like this.
yeah, I'm thinking of this bottom corner and the,
Then you got 8 foot on this
Yeah.
side, and you
Yeah.
got 7 foot 3 on the other side, that's 7-foot side yard setbacks. It's kind of tucked.
Yeah, they're very close.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
this is Lake Lansing. We are
it's
used to those.
It's a wedge. It's a
Yes.
wedge.
Yeah.
And as the chair, we've referred to our planning departments, we're looking at revamping this entire
Right.
special zoning district on the lake, because this happens with every home that's being built or modified in this area. And so something has to be done, and they're looking at it in a very organic, top to bottom way, which is very much needed.
Yeah, I think they're getting to a point in this area where the homes are getting old enough too that it's starting to need to be rebuilt as opposed to just renovated, and we're going to start seeing those. So I know we have seen them, quite an uptick in cases in the past year or so. So I am thankful that the Planning Commission and the board are taking a look at that. I think that will make us a little easier.
In the 50s and 60s, it was okay, 1,000 square feet was fine.
Right.
We haven't built anything like that since like 1980.
Yeah. Different lifestyle now. I'd like to try to take a stab at the criteria as we go, because I think the 3, 4, 5 will be our general hang-up as usual. So I would say yes, we can meet the unique circumstances existing in this particular case. I think we could make that case for any home in the Lake Lansing overlay district, and that the circumstances of this particular lot, of any of the lots, are not self-created. Perhaps the building the design is self-created, and I know that Member Field Foster is thinking that because I'm familiar with how you think about these cases. But I do think that I could go with it. We can get to criteria 3 and start digging in there. So criteria 3, strict interpretation and enforcement of the literal terms and provisions of this chapter would result in practical difficulties. So if this variance is not granted, the alternatives, as Mr. Fidowa has mentioned, is pushing it back, which will require another variance. Doesn't necessarily mean it won't still need the front setback variance either, even if you did push it back. Because you're not going to get it back to where you need it to be if we're looking at where the front yard setback would be. And then they'd need a front yard setback and a side yard setback. So in this way, I can meet criteria number 5, which is granting the variance as the minimum action. I think I can see this being the minimum action. The other alternative is a smaller home, which is definitely an option, but that's also not ours to decide. Member Field Foster.
Okay. So are there houses, I guess if I'm looking at the map, I guess to the south of this one, on the other side of the road?
On the other side of the road?
Yeah, on the other side of the road.
There's nothing on the other side of the road. It's wetland.
Not in this
So
area.
then, as we're talking about the
What is
minimum,
right.
it is, instead
impact?
of going wider, is it possible to go up to get the square footage and the
Well, they're in their
house?
60s, and this is the home that they're going to retire and live in forever. And so everything that they need is on the first floor.
I have a question. What did the lot sell for, or will it sell for if this is approved? Give me a ballpark range.
On the lot?
Yeah, what's the value of the lot?
That's a good question. I'm going to tell you that things are kind of like crazy right now. And so they bought that a couple years ago for in the mid-2s. And so it would be probably a lot more now, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So 2 years ago, about $250,000 for the lot.
Yeah, 232, something like that.
Okay.
And that was their intent, is because it was not habitable at the time that they bought it.
Yeah.
So they bought it for the land.
Well, that would lead me to practical difficulties, but that's,
I'm struggling.
I know. I knew you would on this one.
The reason I ask on the lot is if a lot this valuable, is it reasonable to request them to build a much smaller home on a lot that cost almost $250,000?
Right.
And I don't believe it is, in my opinion.
Though I don't know that I'm particularly suggesting smaller, as I am a different design that instead of being wide goes up. And I recognize the age of the owners, but at the same time, that's not one of my criteria to look at. So I'm just trying to get to a place where one, if I go all the way back to one, I'm just going to kind of lay out what I'm thinking. So when you get to unique circumstances that are peculiar to the land or structure, I mean, one of the things that we've come up with is that it's particular to this zoning area, but not necessarily the lake itself. So when you look at that, it's like, well, okay, this lot isn't really that different from the rest of the lots in this zoning overlay. And then if I get down to, which one is it? Number 7, where we're talking about it's not so general or reoccurrent.
Right.
And Member DeShane just literally talked about the fact that it is so recurrent that we're having more discussions with the planning commission to actually change this,
Right.
Then I'm having problems with that as well. So while I'm open to figuring out how to get to, adopting this variance, I just want to point out where my issues are.
I'll speak to criteria 7, and I wish Director Schmidt was here because we did have a discussion about revamping the criteria. And this is a criteria that they are in hopes of removing for the reason that being almost a penalty to the homeowners or the applicant based on the ordinance. So while we know that every one of these cases, there's gonna be an issue if there's gonna be building in Lake Lansing because nothing is. They all have to deal with these front yard setbacks, and yes, that would be general and recurrent. Penalizing them for the ordinance being not in line with where building is going, where the township is moving to, how we're moving forward. Lifestyles are changing, as Mr. Fido pointed out. They haven't made a 1,000 square foot house since the 80s.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's but I feel like we're to hang it on criteria 7 is penalizing them for the slow work of the government versus.
And that's fine. I can, I can let that one go. It doesn't speak.
No, I know
to
that's not
my,
your issue. I know your issue is 3 and 4.
So,
but I think the recurrent nature, the criteria number 7 is in the works of being solved. Is I guess my point for all of the Lake Lansing homes, because we'll always get hung up on that one with Lake Lansing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we'll say, well, if every single one of these lots is unique, how are any of them unique? Right? Are they all unicorns if they're all unicorns? Yes. So the answer being,
okay, so I'll let
it's what you can feel comfortable with.
So I can let 1 and 7 go, but that doesn't speak to my.
I hear you. So
is it the minimum action? So
yes. Is it the minimum action or the practical difficulties that is?
They both kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
But I think I can even get away from practical difficulties if, like I said, the minimum action. And yes, I recognize, again, the age and the desire to have this as a ranch. and making sure that the house is in line with the lot price and everything else. I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to come to a place where that's not my issue. But again, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't stop this from becoming an approved variance, because there's enough of us here, if everyone else feels differently, to move forward.
I do think that I can meet practical difficulties on the buildable space in this lot is, not only is it small, the configuration of it, I haven't done shapes in a while, I've got a kindergarten, but I don't remember what that
like
shape is called. A little bit trapezoid-like, but yeah, that buildable site is very odd. So that being said, with being in line with the lake setback, with the side yard setbacks, and seeing, I've got this pulled up now on Google Earth, seeing those setbacks across the neighborhood as being really close to the road, as are most of the homes on Lake Drive. So I can meet minimum action with this being a minimum action, and even a little bit tucked back further than the neighboring home is. Anybody have any more thoughts? Or something to convince Member Fieldhouse?
We can keep going down the...
Yeah. Member Koenig, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I totally understand where my neighboring member is having issues. I don't necessarily have the same type of issue she has. I totally understand where she's coming from home, though I think we all understand, I'm sure people out in the crowd here understand, that if they were to wreck this original building and build something similar to what they have now on that biddable lot, they almost would have to build something smaller than what they have now, which wouldn't be economically fair or feasible to them. For me, obviously the biggest hang-up is the setback. It seems like they're going to have or require a variance for the front yard setback no matter what they want to build. And personally, I would rather see the home move forward closer, as in what they're proposing now, than farther back toward the lake, just because of the impacts of the lake into the water. I understand about blocking the views and things like that to the neighbors, and that definitely takes into account the farther back you go. I do, again, understand where she's coming from. If you were to take that current house there's now, and right now it says it's existing one story, you put a second story up there, now you got about 2,200 square feet. It's pretty darn close to what they're proposing. However, it still doesn't answer the question of, can they not be within that 85 feet? That building's already in the 85 feet for all intents and purposes, lack of a better term. It's non-conforming to that front yard setback because of that overlay.
And
So,
I think that's a really good point, Member Koenig, is that even if they were to, in an imaginary world where this existing one-story house can be built atop, they're still going to need a variance for that, because it's still not within that front yard setback. If we're looking at where the dotted line is, where the existing house is. So.
And I completely understand where Board Member Fieldhouse was coming from, and I tend to agree with what she's saying. I personally am not here to say how big of a single-family house you want and try to change the size of your home. I'm just here to kind of look at what the actual impact is as far as what's being requested, which is the variance of the setback. And it seems to me, this may be the least impactful. I don't want to say the term best, because that's subjective, but to me this seems maybe the least impactable, to get it as far back as possible without encroaching on those side setbacks like the applicant said, but still leaving enough space in the back and to the front. This may be the least impact variance that I can see from my point of view. But I do want to say that I do, on the record, I do understand where she's coming from and her concerns.
Thank you, Member Koenig. I agree. I feel you. I do understand the minimum action being, how do we get as close to that front yard setback line, but how do they get close to that with having a livable home? That's the hard part. So I do,
Keep going.
yeah, let's keep going. So where did I leave off? Criteria number six?
I think, yes.
Criteria number 6 would be granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land or the essential character in the vicinity of the property. And I think as evidenced by the communication that we received, the neighbors appear to be in support. And as several members have pointed out, this won't encroach on anybody's view, and this keeps, off of that rear setback line for the lake there. So I do see how this could be a boost for the neighborhood. Criteria number 7, the conditions pertaining to the land or structure are not so general or recurrent, as we said before. I do agree that this is probably the challenging one for me, but I can get around it knowing that relief is in the works, and thankfully, as much as we have asked, and I know Member Hendrickson, before he moved on to being Trustee Hendrickson, really championed that one on getting that moving and getting Lake Lansing Overlay District really taken care of, and to really address these setbacks, because it's challenging for all the residents in this area. So I can say yes to that criteria based on the fact that I know that relief is coming for the residents and for the building department and building planning. You guys need that as well. So I know that staff will be very happy for that to be taken care of. And that said, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting criteria number 7, as much as I have hangups, would not feel comfortable enforcing that upon residents when it's not, the ordinance is not in anything that they've have anything to do with. And criteria number 8, granting the variance will be generally consistent with public interest and the purposes and intent of this chapter. I do think that this is an important one here, because I do think the intent is to allow people who own these homes, who own these lots, to build and to maintain their properties as they see fit. And I think that this is within that public interest and the purposes and intent of the chapter. So I can meet all 8, but I'm definitely willing to help discuss further. Or do we have a motion? What are we thinking? Member Phil Foster.
Just wanted to make a point of clarification.
Yes.
The letter that we are referencing,
Yes.
is that the Moore letter?
No, that is, let me pull that up. That was from Keith. When did you send that, Keith?
Pulling it up right now. Give me
Okay.
a second. Dave Card is the name.
Okay.
Dave Card is the neighbor immediately to the south,
Okay.
Okay.
who used to be the township supervisor.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, this isn't downloading, but okay.
Okay. Well, that letter was in support, and that there was no outstanding issues with this project, that they had been notified of the case and were able to look through and were in support.
Okay.
Oh, no, I can't find the other letter. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, folks, anyone want to put forth a motion, or do we want to go back? Member DeShane.
I move to approve the variance requested in ZBA case number 220420-1, 6059 East Lake Drive, Jerry Fedewa Homes, located at 557 Okemos Road in East Lansing, for the property at 6059 East Lake Drive, parcel ID 33020202451003.
I would support the motion.
Okay, supported by Member Koenig. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, this is a vote to approve the variance request for ZBA case number 22-04-20-1, 6059 East Lake Drive. Member Koenig?
Yes.
Member Field Foster?
I appreciated the comments that Member Koenig made. They gave me pause. I still have my concern, but based on your comments, I can vote yes on this.
All right, Member Field Foster, yes. Member DeShane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the variance request has been approved for 6059 East Lake Drive. Where'd Mr. Fedewa go? Oh. I was looking for you up here. You might want to come back. Yeah, you can have a seat while we talk, and then we'll see you in a sec. Okay, so that request has been approved. Thank you very much. Okay. We get through the tough stuff. All right, let's move on to new business item B, ZBA case number 22-04-20-2. This is 6099 East Lake Drive, and Mr. Fedewa will be up in a second, but first we'll let Mr. Chapman do his presentation.
So the applicant is intending to construct a 2,898 square foot single family home at 6099 East Lake Drive. Currently on site, there's a 960 square foot single family home that is proposed to be demolished. And according to Township records, the one-story home was constructed in 1931. And once again, the Lake Lansing overlay allows for a front yard setback of 20 feet, except for lots on Lake Drive, East Lake Drive, West Lake Drive, or Marsh Road, where the front yard setback is 85 feet from the center line of the right-of-way. And at its closest point, the proposed single-family home will be approximately 70.33 feet from the center line of East Lake Drive right-of-way. So a variance is requested for 14.67 feet.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Mr. Fedewa, you want to come on back, or would the applicant another person like to speak on this case to get started?
Good evening, board members. We're also proposing to build a house on 6099 Lake Drive. And this particular residence happens to be myself and my wife's home. We've resided where we were at for 26 years, going to be 27 years. And we purchased our lot back in 2001 with the intent on building a home out there someday. And so that time has come, and so we're hoping to be able to build that home out there. And we have met with the neighbors, well, 3 or 4 times, probably. And we had a surveyor come out and survey. So basically what we're doing is we're asking a request for a variance from the front yard setback. That is what we're requesting today. But since then, we have met with the neighbors, and there is a contention about the building, where we're building on the lot as far as setbacks and such. So we had given that consideration, and we had thought that we could move the house closer to the road to request a larger variance. And we understand that it could possibly delay us until May, which is unfortunate because we would like to start building. And and we had I had spoken with Tim Schmidt, who said that it could be postponed, and it could be, we wouldn't have to pay an additional fee, could be postponed because the setback that we're requesting is 8 feet more, about 8.5 feet more, which pushes our house further away from the lake by 8 feet. And I brought today, and I hope that you can, I don't know if you can see. Can you help me out? Yeah, thank you. You can see, this is what we're requesting, is we have an existing house.
Yeah, can we put it
Maybe
under
we can get it out
there.
there.
No, that would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, good, yeah.
Try to hook it up to a laptop because I have it digitally on here.
Oh, you mean it might show up?
Cable.
Oh. Keith with visual aids. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay.
Are we okay with that? Dave?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Same one.
Same one. So basically, is that we would really like to get your approval for exactly what we had requested. And this house is even to the lakeside with the house that is to the south. We thought that would be fair and reasonable. And after speaking with our neighbor and our friend Lloyd, who lives directly next door, he protested that our placement of our house. So we had moved the house closer to the road 8 feet. And moving the house closer to the road 8 feet makes us so that we're requesting, I guess, a closer, we're requesting a variance that's 8 feet closer to the road. So it doesn't comply with exactly what we had requested. And I don't know if that little rule can be modified. I don't know, but if it could, we would like it, and we would move the house back closer to the road, 8 feet, 8.5 feet. And I know that, maybe I can show it this way, maybe it's really hard. But what happens is we have shown, this is the lot that goes to the lake, right here. Okay, this is the neighbor to the south of us. We're proposing that we be 8 feet behind this neighbor right here, and we be 10 feet in front of Lloyd, our neighbor to the north. Okay? Lloyd currently built his house 10 feet in front of the next door neighbor right here. And as you go, this is the line. And the Sorbergs, and they're a little bit ahead. They're out here. These folks are out here. If you draw a straight line, this house and this house are the furthest out. So in trying to find common ground, we're willing to move back towards the road, which would cause us to ask for an additional 8 foot variance. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
I think I'm getting it.
You got it.
I think.
Okay.
So the original variance request is 14.67 feet, and that would be an additional 8 feet on top of that 14 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
So, and if that pushes us into a postponement and a redistribution of because of that 8 foot, I don't know, but if that is the case, we would be willing to do that. We don't want to do that, but we would do that. And the reason that we would do that is, if I can show you this here, okay, this here is a picture from our neighbor's yard. And what we're proposing, the deck up there, push that away a little bit. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. What that does is that we're now proposing that the front of the house is at the front of the deck. And in the front of that deck, there's these huge oak trees that block really any view going off to the side. But our house would be back here where the deck is. Obviously the trees would go, but that's the current view. So we thought that being the current view, that would be a reasonable compromise with our neighbor, but which would require us to ask for additional variance to move the house back. And that's really it in a nutshell. And we've placed these markings that were done by Inger Surveys, and surveyor was on site and did all the measurements for that. And it shows that specifically, and I'll come back to this. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
And I would would like to answer questions as they come up.
That sounds great. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Fidua.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak on this case this evening? If you'd like to speak on it, now is your chance. Anybody that would like to speak can come up to the podium. You'll state your name and your address for the public record, and then you can...
Which one would you like?
I want
The big one?
no, the small one. Show that. Hello, my
Hi.
name is Roger Taylor, 6089 East Lake Drive.
Thank you.
I'm in the neighborhood here.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Go ahead and
Okay.
whatever you'd like
Yeah,
to
this
add
one.
to
This one right
the
here.
case, or whatever you'd like to
Okay.
say on the record. Go
Well,
ahead.
Keith, can you help me out here? Now, Jerry, I'm gonna ask a question here. Now, you can help me out. Now, we had a little conference call today, and can I have a pencil?
Here.
Yep, thank you. All right, so you're saying that this setback your corner of your house is going to be right here, is that correct? The corner of your house?
No, the front of the house is at this point here. It's back here.
Okay.
It's back here.
I'm sorry.
It's the house is wider than this house, but
Okay.
the front of the building comes out to this deck.
Okay,
Gentlemen, can we clarify, this is the Lake Drive facing
okay.
part, correct? Not the lake side. Lake Drive means the
No,
road.
this is
It is.
on the lake side.
Thank you.
We're getting a little
This
ahead of ourselves.
This is the clarification. I
We're
need.
getting ahead
Okay.
of ourselves, I know.
Okay, thank you. So this faces the lake,
Yes.
so we're clear.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure that we're clear on this.
Yes, I would like to be as clear as we can. Thank you.
Okay, so the thing is, Jerry, you're saying your house, the corner of your house is going to be going up like this?
Up like that.
Okay. Now, and after this, we talked about this today, you're going to have a flat patio?
Flat patio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comes out this way.
Yeah,
Okay.
and because we're retiring there,
Okay.
and we want everything on, so it's all in one grade.
Okay. So,
That deck is much, much higher than,
so now, in relationship to here, Lloyd, do you have a picture of your view to looking at this deck? So what I'm trying to get is clarity, as he looks out his house, whether there is going to be any kind of
Obstruction.
obstruction.
Of the
okay?
lake.
And, you know,
Yes.
I mean, I want Jerry to be a neighbor and everything, but I just don't want to, take away from Lloyd's, personal view of the lake. Now, if we can get this cleared up, I'd love it. So,
Sir, would you mind, can you state your name and your address, please?
yeah.
Thank you.
Lloyd Moore, I live at 6101 East Lake Drive, right beside of Jerry's. In fact, that's Jerry's deck right there you're looking at.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, now Lloyd, what I'm asking is, as you look at this, if the side of the house went straight up here, now it's just going to be a ranch type. Correct?
The front part is 1 story.
Okay.
1 story.
So what I'm saying is, you have a...
Yeah, I got it. I'll get it out of here.
All right, so go ahead. I just wanted to be clear to
Yes.
help Lloyd out to get it
I
going.
appreciate that, Mr. Haler. Thank you.
And what I would like to show right now, this doesn't show the proper view.
Do you have any other photographs, Mr. Moore?
Yeah, and what I'm
Okay.
gonna tell you is if you bring this pencil straight out here,
Yes.
looking at that, that's where the, and it'll be this way, will be where the corner that Jerry's,
That would be your view from your home. Is that what you're referencing? Sir, would you like to help him out? You're welcome to just state your name and address, please, for the public record, and any just so that we make sure we have everybody accounted for there on the minutes.
Bill Pierce. I'm a neighbor 2 houses to the north.
And what is your address, please, sir?
6103
Great, thank you very much.
East Lake Drive.
okay. This is the one I took today. This is the,
Well,
I got this, hang on to that.
It's a buddy system with us.
Yes, that's okay.
all right.
This is very neighborly, I will say. This is quite a neighborhood you got. It looks like the whole neighborhood is here, which I appreciate. It seems like everybody has a stake in this decision. Yes, sir, go ahead.
now, what Jerry is showing is from the ground shooting up. If you're looking at it this way, this is standing on Lloyd's deck, looking past the projection of his house at that same. So Jerry's house actually will be out here. If you take this line and you go on a perspective from the ground level, it's going to be out here.
Okay.
Not straight up and down like the pencil was.
Yeah, not like this.
Like this.
And gentlemen, can you please show me where the lake is in reference to where this, give us that perspective line, because I think that's important if we can get the kind of the perspective as opposed to, I hear what you're saying about the upright of the home versus the diagonal of what you actually see with that perspective.
Because this is the view Lloyd's gonna have, except his view, he's got a sliding glass door here around the corner, and his view is going to start like this. And this was the house that Jerry was going to have here without showing the deck.
Okay.
Because he hasn't mentioned the
come on
deck
up.
yet.
We're getting as much assistance as we can here. Just your name and address, please. Gang's all here.
My name's Luke Butler. I live at 6097 East Lake Drive. So I'm
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
to the south.
Yes.
Just to give you a sense of perspective, if you bring the other photo back up where you could see the line,
deck.
and you asked for the line in relation to
in relation
the lake.
to where the lake is.
So you can see that effect. If we have that again, I can show you where we are. So if you have that. Is this here? Okay.
Yes, that was the photo they were referencing.
Steal that very quickly. So this is our deck here, you can see. So that is the line going to the lake.
Okay.
So you would have to obviously orientate yourself to say that the building, if it comes out to, say, this point, there is going, you know, this is the angle that you're looking at, not that way, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, that helps. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
This is one view. And this is the view Lloyd is going to see when he walks out on his deck. Except this is where the home was located, which means Lloyd is looking right down here is the lake.
Okay.
And all this other stuff is no longer visible because these trees are pew.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Would you like to add anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we put this on? Well,
That's a view out through your,
this,
I'll wait until.
which one? Did we do this one yet? Wait,
yep.
yep.
That's actually helpful. We didn't see this one, but if you could leave that up for just a moment, because I think that's a little more, because you're pulled back a little bit more. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Member Field Foster had a question for you gentlemen.
Okay, just so that I am, because when you asked where the lake was, I was trying to figure out, it was like exactly, and so I want to make sure I understand what the concern is. So, the deck at where the Fidoa house would be, you're saying, okay, where the lattice is right now and the tree, so the house itself would extend to, let's say, that second tree right there.
Only further this way because we're not taking into perspective. I mean, you can't go like this because that isn't true.
Right, I understand.
You'd see the side of Jerry's building there.
Uh-huh.
All the way up to about right there.
Okay.
Because it's on an angle.
Okay. And so I understand the view that you're talking about. So the lake, so I'm looking at the screen door right here on this first house. So the lake is literally like in front of it?
The lake.
To this side.
To this, okay, so.
You can actually see the periphery of the lake.
Right, over there?
In the background.
Okay.
That runs pretty
The lake goes in that direction.
That's
Okay.
about the edge of the lake there. Okay.
So then, in order to see the lake from this house where the screen door is, you have to look in that. No, just straight out. So,
yeah, that's the hard time I'm having. So this is your lake view.
Yes. This is the inside of our house.
Okay.
I'm Juanita Moore, Lloyd's wife.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
so then.
So this is your lake view
Yeah.
from this perspective.
Now,
And this is
This
what you would
might-
see if you were standing on your deck looking at the lake.
I'm actually inside the house,
Okay.
and we have a loft.
Okay.
But we've got the trapezoid, you were talking about trapezoids. We've got
You knew which one I was talking about
We've
then.
got trapezoid windows and then windows all the way across the front. And the ones on the left, where Jerry started with the stake, the first stake that was in the ground was like 20 feet ahead of the line of houses.
Okay.
There is a line, and it may have to be determined by somebody other than Lloyd or Jerry, but
In this photograph, is this showing what you're referring to with the line that?
Is this?
I see a flag or something there in one of these
All right,
windows.
now, That's where I was. The flag where he started.
Mrs.
right
Moore,
there
if you could just come back up to the microphone, just so we can make sure all of this is in the public record. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. The
Okay, I see.
flag where Lloyd is standing there, from the inside of our house,
Okay.
was where Jerry's house. I have a picture of a stake that said northwest corner of the house.
Okay, now to clarify, and I will ask Mr. Fedewa to be able to clear this up for us, is that where the house line is currently?
No.
Okay, okay, so, as wonderful as this is for providing us perspective, it's not
agree.
relevant if that's not where his house line is. Okay,
It's about, Jerry took the stake out 2 or 3 days ago and moved it back towards the east, about 6-7 feet.
Towards the road.
Toward the road.
okay,
8 feet something.
okay, I appreciate that.
But in our estimation of where the line of the established cottages, the houses, the line that we can't go beyond because of a covenant in a warranty deed.
Right.
In everybody in that subdivision's warranty deed.
Yes.
But
I do understand that, and I will bring, I want to discuss that when we get to our board time, because I do think that's important, so I appreciate you saying that. If you could tell us more about that, that would be helpful for our discussion.
it may be that someone else has to determine that line, because Lloyd has determined it and Jerry, and they're not in agreement.
Okay.
Jerry brought someone out and he put the stake there, but we're not in agreement with where it was.
Okay, let me show you something here. Grab this, honey. Oh, yeah.
You got it.
Oh, darn.
I got you.
Can you get that whole thing in there somehow?
We're gonna try. There we go. That's helpful.
Will it go that way a little bit more?
Nope. As far as I can go. Let's see.
Well,
Okay, I think we can gather, this is the line of where the homes are, is that correct?
that's right.
Okay.
Let me,
Can we just confirm that this, what we're looking at as far as this case in particular with Mr. Fedewa's house, is that the current plan that you have, even with regards to the 8 feet additional that you're requesting with your variance?
Say it again.
Is this the current plan where they have this house?
That plan is not the current plan.
Okay, so unfortunately, I really appreciate this visual reference because we want to see that line, because I think that's helpful. But if this is not the current plan, this isn't going to help us to make a true determination.
let me
Right.
Take a look at it.
Let me mention this to you.
Yes, Mr. Moore, go ahead.
There's 2 men in a truck here. And they jog out maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 foot, something like that. Then you got a 1, 2, 3, or honest, you couldn't get it any straighter. And then Bill and Nancy's, and half of the way from side to side, the line turns to the southwest slightly. You can see it on there. Here's where we live. I run a string from Bill and Nancy's door, hit our peak, of course, went across Jerry's deck, hit the corner of Luke's house. It was perfectly straight. Then weave or nothing. I had it pulled tight and nothing was intruding in the way of that string. Today, in fact, late this afternoon, I did another string from Jerry's deck. Same line, went right by Luke's house, close to it, maybe 3 inches, because there was a eaves trough there. Came to the next one, which is it's set back a ways, has been for 60 years or longer. Come by Don and Brenda's house. The same line, same string. Came by Roger's house by about a foot. Is it there? Yeah, Roger. And Gina. See how close it is to that line? And then right down to the last house, you can see that right there, was within a foot of it. So those lines right there were within, one way or another, about 6 inches.
Now, Mr. Moore, so we're clarifying, this line would be the deed line. Is that what you're referring to? Or the line with which the homes are, the edges of the homes? So nothing, the challenge for us is going to be, this is nothing necessarily enforceable, but just maybe how this neighborhood has been built to accommodate all the neighbors. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's amazing how straight that was. But one other thing, right here in Jerry's house, where is it?
It's right at the bottom of the screen, right there where your finger is.
There you go, right where your index finger is there.
There?
Yes.
You can see where that, in fact, that string goes kitty corner across his deck right there.
Now this is what's existing.
Huh?
This line is what's existing. The deck that's there, not what's been proposed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Member DeShane, did you have a question?
I'd like to make a motion. Excuse me, sir. I appreciate your information, but the applicant is prepared to amend his proposal, which will change all the material facts we're looking at now.
Right.
And I would propose we table this application for ZBA case number 220420-2, 6099 East Lake Drive, until our next meeting, when we will have some new drawings of the proposed revisions in the layout of the home on this lot.
Yeah.
I would support.
Okay, supported by, this is a motion to table with support from Member Koenig. I would, to discuss this motion, I want to say a couple of things. Do any of the other, I would like everybody to be able to be heard tonight if they want to be heard. So if you came and you have something to add, I would love you to be able to come up and to add. I do appreciate the materials that you brought forward, and I think what is important to us is that this is going to be challenging because this isn't what the proposed build is, and we need to be looking at that in order to make a good decision either way. So that said, while all these materials are really helpful visually, if we don't have the current with that 8 foot, I want to see that 8 foot so we can see where it sits on that lot in relationship to the neighbors. Mr. Fidoa, come on up. The other thing I will say, and I think I can speak for most of the board members here, and as Mr. Fidoa comes up, he can join us with the statement. But
can I say one other thing?
Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
We're just talking about 10, 11 feet, something like that. Actually, it's 13 feet. Before, I think Jerry mentioned something about moving it towards the lake, 8 feet or something.
No, moving it towards the road. See, this is the important to
I mean,
to
to
have.
the road, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
But Jerry's, where his parking area is, he's got plenty of, I believe he could park 8 or 9 cars there. He's worried about parking cars in his driveway and the roadside. Then why couldn't that whole unit of the house and garage be moved that 13 foot to get him in line with this here line here?
I think if I may, I think to summarize what I'm hearing from a lot of the neighbors is you would like to maintain equal view of the lake for all the homes in the line that has been established previously. Can I make that statement for the neighborhood that for people who've spoken? Okay, so that said, I do think that we owe it to Mr. Fidoa as your neighbor to give him the opportunity to present a case that is more in line with the view and with the setbacks, because it's a challenge.
One thing.
So I very, very much respect that everybody in the neighborhood wants to see the same result, which is Mr. Fidoa being able to build, but also everybody else maintaining what they have currently.
One thing in particular, even if his house is back in line, sitting in our living room, we can see the corner of that house.
Which is legal, which is okay.
Yes, I think unfortunately, sir, we're not going to get you an unimpeded view of the lake.
Okay.
But we will try to, as we do as a board, to make the best decision for the township and for all the residents that is going to be equitable for all the residents.
Clarification.
Yes, Mrs. Moore, come over to the microphone just so we can hear you a little bit.
Tabling this, who will decide what the line is? We can't defend or disagree about where the line is. We have to know where the line is to know whether someone's going over it or not.
So unfortunately, that is not enforceable by the township.
It is not.
This is not. My understanding, and I would ask Keith to kind of give me the proper verbiage, but that this is a deed restriction, which is not enforceable by the township. So we don't have the ability to create that line. I think that as neighbors, if you can come to a resolution, that is the best case, because that is everybody has stake in your neighborhood.
We have two different people that think they have the right line, though.
Well, I will point out, we're able to have differing opinions and come to a consensus.
Right.
So I do think that I would encourage all of you neighbors to speak and come up with a determination together and to listen to one another and to work well, because nobody wants to have an unpleasant situation in the neighborhood, correct? We all want to. I mean, can you imagine if everybody was arguing about these where these homes are located, and you all have to sit out there on your decks and look at the lake and go, oh, well, I don't like that neighbor. I mean, we have to live next to each other, so we can figure out a way to do this. I promise you that.
Okay.
So what I want to hear is that everybody's working together and we're all being nice on the playground and coming up with an equitable solution.
I will sit down for that.
Mrs. Moore, I know you're going to lead that discussion, and I appreciate you coming up here. Member Kaden, go ahead.
Well, first, let me have Mr. Chapman, you were going to say something about the covenant, and then I'll
Yes.
speak to my support of the motion.
The chair explained it wonderfully. That was exactly what I was going to say. And also encourage the residents to come to a consensus on the covenant line as well.
I think if you can come up with that, that is the best case scenario. And I would say, as our board, though the township cannot recognize it and we can't enforce it, that we can use that covenant line in further determinations if necessary. If somebody's established, we can apply that. We can't enforce it, but we could use that in our deliberations if necessary for anything going further. So I think it behooves everybody to come up with that solution. Yeah, Mr. Pierce?
Pierce.
Okay.
I have just a couple of things to add, since you're making a determination where Jerry's going to move.
This is to postpone. We are not making a determination tonight. We don't believe.
If you take a look at his engineer's drawing or surveyor's drawing, the space on this side of the house is 8.6 feet off the lot line. Mm-hmm. On this side of the house, it's 5 1/4. I would like to see the 7-foot setback observed for a 36-foot wide house on a 50-foot lot.
I would ask for clarification. Just a moment, Mr. Pierce. I'd ask Mr. Chapman, is this within the setback?
So the setback is 7 feet. However, in the overlay district, you can go down to 5 feet if you build with fire-resistant material.
Thank you.
Okay, I got. Can I?
So Mr. Pierce, this would be allowed if it was built with fire-resistant materials. I would, though, gentlemen, like to give Mr. Fedewa, because he is the applicant, the opportunity to speak on this case. Yes, we do have a motion.
Well,
Can we move on the motion, please?
Yes, we do have a motion on the table, gentlemen.
All I'm saying is, if you move it that way, that improves his view.
Okay, sir, I would very much encourage you to, now, this is not a variance that we have any say in. This is not, as long as he builds with fire-resistant materials, that is not something that we can determine. So again, I would encourage neighbors to speak with neighbors and come up with a consensus, but I would love to allow Mr. Fedewa to come up. Because I have one more thing to say, and I'm the chair, so I get to say what I'd like to say.
Resistant materials.
But this is pertains to this, what's.
But sir, we are going to postpone this case.
This will be discussed at our next meeting.
This will be discussed again at the next meeting, but I hope before then we have, you all as neighbors can come together and discuss this, and then you can come back based on his newest plan. Yes, Member Koenig. It will not. Member Koenig, go ahead.
Thank you. I did just want to really quickly...
Gentlemen, one of our members is speaking. Thank you.
I just wanted to really quickly speak to why I supported the motion. Is that
yes.
The original application before us is for the variance of the 14 point so and so feet.
Gentlemen, one of the members of the board is currently speaking. Thank you. Okay, Member Koenig, go ahead.
So the original variance is to be within 14 or so feet. Word for word, I'm just paraphrasing here.
Yeah, 14.67.
In the meantime, we've heard that the applicant is willing to potentially change that to make it smaller. Unfortunately, that's not what's been in front of us tonight, and therefore that's not what was advertised out to the public as a variance of 14 feet. He wants to change it to, let's say, 6 feet or something, but that's not what's advertised as part of this application. Right. So that's why I was supporting the motion to table this in order to give all these gentlemen, including the applicant, time to kind of work these things out, because it seems like there's still some, I don't want to say miscommunication, I get, for lack of a better term, that's what I'll say, but it'll give more time. I know that probably doesn't help the applicant with moving this back potentially into May, but it seems like at this time that's probably the best option for you right now. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Koenig. Okay, on that note, I will say my last bit of discussion with the motion on the table is Mr. Fedewa.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say something first. I don't want to look at the map again for this moment. I just want a couple moments of listening. As I said to the other members and everybody here that's in attendance, I think it behooves you to take this time to speak to your neighbors and come up with a solution that is going to allow you to live comfortably and amicably in your neighborhood with your neighbors. So I hear what you're trying to do is trying to get it back. and trying to address their concerns. But we need to see that. And the hard part is with everybody else's materials is not having the direct and newest version, which is actually an additional, so the 14.67, he wants to add 8 feet to that.
Right, okay, so I went the other way.
Yeah.
My apologies.
So,
822.
so that's, we need to see it.
Absolutely,
So I think, I truly believe that especially with this covenant line, it is in your best interest to go to your neighbors. You're building also in this neighborhood, so you have a stake here.
Yes.
So, and you have roots here.
When you say you want to see it, I would, maybe a field trip to the site, and let's take a look at what we're talking about.
The more, I will tell you, the visual aids were fantastic, folks. I mean, those were fantastic.
I think that by doing that, you will see the compromise that I am proposing is very reasonable.
Yes.
And just so you know, can you help me?
Yeah. Mr. Fidowa, the challenge here is that Mr. Fidowa, the challenge that we're going to vote to postpone.
We're not going to look at any more maps.
Because
we want to move on.
Correct, we do.
We do.
We want to move on.
But we want to move on because we want to give you the chance. You're gonna tell us stuff, but again, we're not making a determination on this variance tonight because we don't have everything we need in hand.
Thank you for understanding that.
So we want to give you the opportunity, and we want to give you the opportunity. I'm just asking you all to come together, to work together, figure it out, and come back to us with exactly what it is that you're proposing, and we can go from there.
It's not that we haven't interacted for the last 2 weeks on this.
Yeah, no, I can tell there's been a lot of interaction.
We've
but,
tried.
Yes, but I think we can all
But
try
we're not
harder.
done trying.
Yeah, we're gonna keep trying. You got a month.
Thank you.
How about that? Okay, this is a vote to approve tabling this case for ZBA case number 22-04-20-2, 6099 East Lake Drive. And Member Koenig.
Yes.
And Member Field Foster?
Yes.
Member DeShane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So your variance request has been tabled, and we will see you next month. Okay?
Do you know what the date is next month?
May 18th.
There you go. All right. Okay, with that, we're going to move on because we still have 2 more cases. ZBA case number 22-04-20-3, 4790 South Hagedorn Road, Hannah Plaza, 300 South Washington, Lansing, Michigan 48933. Mr. Chapman, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so the applicant is requesting to install a 100.5 square foot freestanding sign at 4790 Hagedorn Road.
Members of the crowd, I would just ask you to please allow Mr. Chapman the chance to state his case, and you can speak outside. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Chapman, go ahead.
I'll start over.
Okay, thank you.
So the applicant is requesting to install a 100.5 square foot freestanding sign at 4790 Hagedorn Road. This proposed sign will replace an 18-foot tall, 122 square foot freestanding sign, which was legally installed in 1993. So recently, this sign was destroyed by a train that ripped down the power lines, causing the sign to catch fire. So on the sign listed various tenants that occupy the Hannah Plaza shopping center, and at the time of construction, the sign met the requirements of the zoning ordinance. There was a zoning amendment in 1996, which gave us our current standards, and subsequently made that sign non-conforming. So Hannah Plaza is a approximately 75,000 square foot shopping center on a 9.9 acre parcel at 4790 Hagedorn Road. It was constructed in 1993, and the proposed 100.5 square foot freestanding sign is 11 feet tall. On the main cabinet displays tenants, which will be 80.5 square feet in size, and then on top there's a 18 square foot section that says Hannah Plaza. So our zoning ordinance requires that signs that are taller than 5 feet be no greater than 28 square feet. in size. And the sign being 100.5 square feet requires a variance of 72.5 square feet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to come up and just state your name and address for the record, sir? Thank you for being patient with us tonight.
Of course, an interesting evening.
Yes.
Having lived on the lake for many years, I appreciate all the concern
well, there you
that's
go.
there. So
Welcome, another
sat
Lake
back there
Lansing resident.
I don't live there any longer, but I did for a long time.
Okay.
And I appreciate all the interest and concerns.
Fantastic. Go ahead,
having
sir.
built a new home there at one time, and so I understand.
So you've
that.
been here before that, I take it?
No, I actually built mine within all the, it was very difficult, but it was a number of years ago.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Good evening. My name is Mark Klaus, and I'm here on behalf of IDE Hannah Plaza, actually IDE Development, but the entity that owns that particular property is called IDE Hannah Plaza. And I haven't, in your package, you have all of this information as well, but what's on the screen now is what the sign looked at Hannah Plaza on December 10th of 2021. How have I got these all? On midday, December 11th, that's what it looked like. I refer to it as the train versus the power poles fiasco on that day when we had, I looked it up, but I was sitting here tonight. I don't remember. I remember it was very windy, although we've had some windy days recently, but apparently the gusts were 50 to 60 miles an hour on December 11th. And as I'm sure all of you are aware, being residents of the township, the wind caught the power lines. The power lines became at one with the train, and the train managed to go down the tracks along or adjacent to Hagedorn there and pull the power poles right out of the ground, broke them, and through that process the power lines above the sign came down on the sign and burned the sign, destroyed it, knocked it, whatever. I mean, it just, the sign is gone now. It was not salvageable. The result was that the tenants there of Hannah Plaza have now had no visibility from Hagedorn Road. Unlike many of our retail centers today that are built up close to a road, which is very popular with the parking behind and trying to make it a walkable area, this was developed in 1993, and the design was to put the buildings back further. Some of the locations are about 700 feet from Hagedorn Road, and the parking is in front. So those, especially the tenants that are along the back part, the further, the visibility, no one can see their signage or even know that they're there without having the visibility along Hagedorn. Hagedorn also is a boulevard. So as long as you are traveling, if you're traveling north on Hagedorn, you may have a little better visibility. If you're traveling south on Hagedorn, you have even less because you're another couple hundred feet away from the site. Our request is simply to allow us to provide our tenants with the same type, the same frontage, if you will, or face size of a sign that they had on December 10th. We have reduced the height of the building, or of the sign itself, from 18 feet down to 11, so we've taken it down 7 feet, but we've maintained the same, if you will, face of that sign, being 16.5 feet wide, and I think we have a total of 101.5 square feet of signage, of which I think a portion of that, which in the document I provided you, is mainly for the Hannah Plaza name, because as long as it's been here since 1993, many people refer to it that way, and it helps for people to know the name as opposed to the name of the tenant specifically. And also, what we didn't have before is the address, the 4790, which is within the ordinance now, and certainly a good idea to put the address right there in front, so we're adding that as well. So our request is to replace the sign. I realize that there is a variance required. It is not circumstances that we had any control over, and I did provide responses to each of the criteria that the ordinance has, and I believe we've met each one of those. And I have a couple of emails and letters from our tenants. They didn't get to you. I have those if it has any impact on you, but I'm sure you can understand that everyone that rents from us is saying, please get this back as soon as you can. They've already gone without it for 4 months. It's a difficult time for retailers anyway, and it has been. This has been a very difficult last over 2 years, and we want to do everything we can as owners of that building to assist our tenants in being successful in their businesses here in the township. So I'll answer any questions you have, and I appreciate your time on doing this evening.
Thank you very much. Remind me of your name again, sir?
I beg your pardon?
Your name again?
Mark Klaus.
Klaus. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Klaus. Okay, on that note, if there's nobody else that would like to speak on this case this evening, we'll get into our board time, which I never got to get into last time, did I? That said, Member Koenig, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I first reviewed this, I had a lot of thoughts, but I guess let me back up. I just wanted to quickly say that I personally don't see a lot of issues with this. Number one, this was a sign that was legally there before and was destroyed. You can call it an act of nature, I'm not sure. The wind is an act of nature, a train being powered by man, hitting a pole and dropping the lines. That's debatable and probably be more of a question for staff, but it was a legal sign beforehand. And even then it was non-conforming with multiple aspects, with size, with height. We totally appreciate, or I at least appreciate as a board member, that you're essentially going to decrease the size of this, and not the size, but the height of the sign to make the height actually conforming now. So you're actually decreasing that part of the non-conformity of the sign, which is greatly appreciated. And typically, if you have something like a structure that's non-conforming, that's destroyed by nature, you're more or less allowed to almost put it back to what it was beforehand. And you're not exactly doing that. You're actually decreasing that non-conformity when you're putting it back, even though you're asking for a variance because of the size of the sign, but you're keeping it the exact same. So you're not increasing that non-conformity of that size of that sign. So that's my points of why I don't necessarily see an issue with this, being that it was a man-made destruction and no power of their own, and the effect of the sign is actually being lessened from the decrease in the height. So I don't have any problems with it, Mike.
Thank you, Member Koenig. I think you make excellent points, and that's exactly was my thinking reading this in my packet. So thank you, eloquently put. Member DeShane.
And I'm looking at the proposed renovation that you had planned for this compared to the new sign. I like the new sign better. The lower profile, closer to the ground. I think it would actually be much easier for people to find the commercial tenants are looking for, being rather than up high, spread out like that. So I think your new sign is even better than the proposed revision to the sign.
Credit for that. I have to give Jim Johnson from Johnson Sign the credit for helping us do that. But our intent was to reduce the height and to help our tenants be seen. So I certainly, when he comes before you next time, make sure you thank him as well, if you would, please. Thank you, sir.
All right. On that note, do you have anything to add? Okay. On that note, I think I can just go through criteria, and to be honest, I can meet all these fairly easily. Okay. So criteria 1, unique circumstances exist. I can meet that. And these circumstances were not self-created. This is the epitome of not self-created circumstances. I don't know what we call it. I don't think we call it an act of nature necessarily, but it's an act of, we didn't do this. Criteria number 3, strict interpretation and enforcement of the literal terms and provisions would result in practical difficulties. It's a slam dunk in that, in my regard, because I couldn't agree more that we cannot see the tenants are at the back, and this is very helpful for people driving. So much is done on GPS right now. I mean, this is a public safety issue to me. If people are looking around, they can't figure it out, they're pausing. I mean, Hagerons are always a mess anyway, with students and scooters and bikes and the train on top of it all. So I definitely can see that being a practical difficulty to not have this monument sign. The alleged criteria number 4, the alleged practical difficulties result in a failure to grant the variance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property. I do believe for the tenants that this signage is essential for their for all these businesses to operate. And so I can meet that criteria. Criteria number 5, granting the variance is the minimum action. We're, as Member Koenig eloquently pointed out, we're reducing the height and otherwise keeping the same footprint that we had. So I do believe that that's a minimum action. So I can meet that. Criteria number 6, granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land. I will be happy to not see that. I'll be so thrilled to not see that. I think everybody will be thrilled to see something new there. And I think that will not adversely affect, so I can meet that criteria. Criteria number 7, conditions pertaining to land or structure not so general or recurrent. I certainly hope this isn't a recurrence in our township. So with that, I will move on to criteria number 8, which is granting the variance will be consistent with public interest, and I absolutely can meet that. So with that, do I have a motion? Whoa, I got lots of action. Okay, Member Field Foster.
I move to approve the variance in 22-04-20-3 at 4790 South Hagedorn Road to grant the variance of 72.5 square feet. I think that's it.
All right. Support. And supported by Member DeShane. Any discussion? I think we're all out of discussion tonight, so I will go to the vote. Member Koenig?
Yes.
Member Field Foster?
Yes.
Member DeShane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, your variance has passed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Greatly
Mr.
appreciate it.
Klaus.
Thank you.
And good luck. This is going to be fantastic for the entire Hannah Plaza, I know that. Okay. Motion approved, and we will move on to new business letter D, ZBA case number 22-04-20-4, 2755 East Grand River, SHG2755 LLC. I love it's very a James Bond type of LLC name, but we know who you are. So with that, I will pass it over to Mr. Chapman for his presentation.
So the applicant's requesting a variance to install a wall sign at 2755 East Grand River Avenue. The property is approximately 2.2 acres and is zoned C2 commercial. A site plan application has been approved to construct a 13,500 square foot Trader Joe's specialty grocery store. It's currently under construction. So the applicant is proposing to install 2 wall signs, one being 123 square foot Trader Joe's sign on the north elevation and one 122 square foot Trader Joe's sign on the south elevation. So the zoning ordinance only allows for wall signs to be located on the front facade, and in the case of corner lots facades with road frontage, they each get a sign. So in this case, it would be permitted to have a sign on both the north and west elevations. So the proposal doesn't show a sign on the west facade, and the applicant is requesting to place the sign on the south facade where there's no road frontage on the public street.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. With the applicant's representative, I'd like to come up and just state your name and address for the public record.
Yes, my name is Mike Ahrens. I'm an engineer with LAP Design.
Okay, great.
And I live in Meridian Township, Livingston County.
Okay.
1365 North Allstott Drive. I'm the engineer of record for the civil portion of the project.
Okay.
And as was indicated, we're simply asking that the west-facing sign be located to the south face. And the reasons are all detailed in the rationale. I hate to repeat, but just very briefly, we feel the west-facing sign, as it's proposed, is redundant with the monument sign, which is right at the corner of the lot. And just to reinforce, the south face would be a more appropriate location for the sign. That's where the entry is, to identify the entry, to facilitate vehicular and pedestrian traffic there, which obviously makes it safer. Without that wall sign at the south end, as customers would expect, vehicular and pedestrian traffic would be more confused, less certain, and perhaps less safe. The special circumstances here, as you see, the actual front of the building where the entry is located is technically under the ordinance, the rear. Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, the township and the developer cooperated to move the building to the front, to eliminate the sea of parking lots out there. But in doing so, that put the parking in the entry to the south of the building. Obviously, it's hidden from the main fronting streets. So that the south actually becomes the front. I think the other points are addressed, I hope, and I can answer any further questions. But I think it's a simple request in the light of train wrecks and
neighborhood disputes. Yes.
But we appreciate your consideration, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Ahrens. All right. If there's nobody else who'd like to speak on this case tonight, we will go into our board time. All right, in that case, anyone want to get started? I think I just have a general statement, and this might be for whoever we have coming up on the Planning Commission eventually. Is there discussion on sign ordinance changing with the move to move more things to frontage and parking in the rear? Is that something that that's in the works, Mr. Chapman?
So, yeah, we are looking at the sign ordinance, and I know we have talked about some sort of allowance for
this circumstance?
Like a similar circumstance.
Okay.
I don't know that it's written into it yet, but it's definitely everything's being looked at with the sign ordinance.
Okay. I'm gonna probably get to, we'll get to number 7. I don't think this is necessarily recurrent enough yet, but I think if we're moving towards this model of having parking in the rear of the buildings, that's definitely something that, as a whole, the township wants to take a look at. That said, I can meet the unique circumstances for this location, and that in working together to develop this land with the township and that this is not self-created. It has come to the determination together as a way to properly and best develop this location. I also believe that was done, that these circumstances are created in order to lessen the public safety issues, in order to maintain that where's Scott Henderson when I need him? What is he always talking about? The form-free code?
Form-based code?
Form-based code, thank you. I think that is what this is intending to get to. So that said, I can meet criteria 1 and 2 very easily. I don't really have a problem with this variance whatsoever, meeting any of the criteria with this. So I welcome any discussion about it if there is hesitation on any of these. Yes, Member Koenig.
I could say one thing real quick.
Yes.
We can blame the township for asking them to move this building forward and causing the variance. I'm just kidding.
Right, because I don't believe it's self-created. I think this was a mutual decision.
I agree with you, Madam Chair, that I don't see much of an issue with this. The only minor issue that I have, and this is just me being picky, is the answer statement to number 4. Mm-hmm. I know we're going to get to that, but I respectfully disagree that failure of the granting the variance would prevent the property owner, in this case the grocer, from using the property as permitted. It's a pretty large property. I think they would be able to use it. If the variance for those words went on the back, they'd still be able to use that property. But regardless, I think that's kind of a moot point at this point. Mm-hmm. I understand why the need to move those words so that they're seen from the south side as well as from the north, and the redundancy with the wall sign.
Monument sign.
Monument sign, thank you. Yep. That was going to be my only other question is, I probably already know the answer, but is the monument sign absolutely necessary? I know it's probably already approved as part of the site plan, but is it, if it's already going to be kind of redundant, is it absolutely necessary to be on the property?
It would be necessary for east-facing traffic. It would be necessary for eastbound traffic.
Okay.
If this variance is granted.
Yeah.
That's what I figured the answer was. So
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's all I had.
Okay. Thank you, Member Koenig. It's a very thinly able to reach number 4, because true, the business can operate. I think we get into with a lot of these signs is it necessary for them to operate? Sure, they can open their doors without a sign on the building, absolutely, but does it make sense for the customer, this public safety issue of where are we going in this building, where people, directionally, I can make that argument that yes, I see the need for that to to direct people that, okay, this is where we're coming into the building. I can make a case for that. I do understand the need for that. With this being this new type of building with the parking in the back. Yes, Member Field Foster.
So I think maybe the stronger case for number 4 goes back to what Member Koenig basically mentioned, in the fact that the municipality, that we literally put this requirement on Trader Joe's to ultimately have the parking lot in the back, which then ultimately created this whole scenario. But for the fact that they actually have to comply with what Meridian Township has said, then if we don't ultimately give them the variance to allow them to do that, then honestly they would not be able to use the property for its permitted purposes. So I think, just for the record, that is probably
fair argument,
the stronger argument.
Yes. Thank you for that. Member DeShane, go ahead.
Thank you. Did the same thing with the Marathon Station at the corner of Hazlitt Road and Marsh Road, and variances were required as well for their signage because of it. So it's not the first time we've done this.
Right. So I do think it's worth this being looked at as a circumstance that's going to arise. And what I could appreciate is that we're just moving the sign, so we're not adding to. So that's where we get into minimum action. This is actually just, instead of having, they're not asking for an additional sign, it's just to move the sign, to make it more appropriate for how they're going to be using the building, and where their actual frontage is versus what the street view is, because their frontage is to the south. So if we look at it this way, I kind of almost feel like with the monument sign, maybe the north-facing sign isn't as necessary, but it's allowed. So, I can make a case for this one. Shall I go through? Shall I take a stab at the criteria? Criteria number 1: unique circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land or structure. Again, I think we've discussed that, and yes, we can meet that. Special circumstances are not self-created, thanks to Meridian Township, so we can meet that. Criteria number 3: strict interpretation and enforcement of the literal terms and provisions of this chapter would result in practical difficulties. I do see the practical difficulty of having the actual entrance to the store on the south elevation and not being able to have a sign on the actual entrance to the store. Criteria number 4: that the alleged practical difficulties will result in a failure to grant, would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property. And as Member Field Foster stated, this is the corner we backed them into. So in order for them to use it for their permitted purpose, this variance is necessary. Criteria 5: granting the variance is a minimum action. And again, as I just stated, I think just instead of an additional sign, just moving the sign to the south elevation, I do believe is a minimum action. And criteria number 6: granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land. I think we discussed this at length when we had the case with us initially, and I think this is only going to improve that adjacent land and character of the vicinity. Criteria number 7: that the conditions pertaining are not so general or recurrent. And I just would put that on our radar. I think, as Director Schmidt stated when we were discussing the criteria, that when we know these types of cases are coming up, and like Member DeShane pointed out about the Marathon Station, we know these types of cases are starting to be more prevalent, that it's something for the township to take a look at. But it would not prevent me from approving this. And criteria number 8: granting the variance will be generally consistent with public interest and the purposes and intent of this chapter. I absolutely agree that it would. So with that, is there any more discussion, or is there a motion? Fastest hands goes to Member DeShane.
I move the approval of the zoning variance requested in ZBA case 2204-20 20-4, 2755 East Grand River, SHG 2755 LLC, 530 Northwind Drive, Suite 120, in Meridian Township.
Okay.
Second.
Support by Member Field Foster. Any discussion? All right, on that note, we are going to vote as a motion to approve. And Member Koenig?
Yes.
Member Field Foster?
Yes.
Member DeShane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So your variance request has been approved.
Thank you so much, board members and staff.
Thank you so much. All right, on that note, look at that. We got through it. We have on our agenda no other business, so I will go straight to public comments. If anybody would like to come up and make a remark for public comments, you may do so at this time. We just ask that you state your name for the public record. Okay. That being said, I will close public remarks and we will go into board member comments. Anyone want to add anything? I think everybody's ready to go home. Member Field Foster.
I just want to say thank you to the chair for how you've handled the meeting and for keeping everything on track. So,
well, thank you. You're welcome, and I appreciate it. That was an interesting.
I would add to that, and I appreciate your encouragement that the neighbors find a way to work it out themselves, and hope that they will. And I understand other efforts have already been made in that regard, and that hopefully they'll be able to do that on their own and not bring this back to us to make us decide what they should be able to resolve themselves.
Thank you very much, Member Shane. I think that is very, very much exactly what I was hoping for, is that this is not really our decision to make, even legally, so that we can only deal with what we have in front of us. So that said, if we have no other comments.
Move to adjourn.
So approved. And we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pierce.
I thought that was expertly handled.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. That was a tough one.